Something happened to me the other day that made me completely change how I look at money, and especially how I react to small problems. It was one of those tiny, everyday moments you normally ignore, but for some reason this one made me stop, think, and actually run the numbers. And what I found was embarrassing. Not because it was expensive, but because of how people react to it. So in this video, I want to show you that mindset shift that came from that moment, and why it's probably costing you more than you realize. The other day, I just got back from the gym, and as I was sitting down in my workroom, I noticed a shouting match going on. My father and my younger brother were going on at it for some unapparent reason. When I stood up to look why they were fighting, I realized they were fighting about the light bulb being left on. And while that's a very Balkan thing to do, I got curious and I decided to do the math. So, an average light bulb uses, say, 10 watts. 10 watts being left on for 24 hours equals to about 0.24 kilowatt hours. The average price per kilowatt hour of electricity here is about 10.5 cents per kilowatt hour, which means that if the light was left on for 24 hours, it would have used about 2.5 cents of electricity. Now, realistically, the light wasn't on for 24 hours, it was on for either 15 to 30 minutes, which means that if it were on for 30 minutes, it would have used a grand total of about 0.5 or half a cent of electricity. Hi, so as I reviewed the footage, I realized I might have f***ed up the math somewhat. So the half a cent number actually comes from the chandelier in his room, which uses about 100 watts, which when you do the math would equate to about half a cent of price of usage, right? But if we did use the 10 watt bulb as we did in this example, it would have used about 0.05 cents, which is even worse. And that's when it hits me. People waste more emotional energy than the actual price of the problem. That half a cent of electricity isn't worth 5, 10, 20 euros worth of stress, especially if you are fighting with your loved one. That's broke thinking, regardless of income. Now, the rule should be, if the problem costs less than that threshold, you don't react, you just take care of it. Things are supposed to get us emotional, get us to react, but if we react on every little single tiny thing that happens to us in the day, we will be emotional all of the time. For example, if I'm going to the gym, it's maybe a 15-20 minute drive. In those 15-20 minutes, I will encounter 5 red lights. I will be overtaken by some douchebag that, just overtook me for no apparent reason, then brake checked me. That's 15 reasons, 15 times I should have been pissed off at someone. I should have punched the steering wheel. I should have done 1,000 emotional things, but I didn't, because those events do not require my attention, because they are stupid. They are unimportant in the grander scheme of things. In essence, your energy is way too expensive to be used for these micro annoyances. Now, there's a few rational reasons why people do this stuff. For example, if we go 30, 40, 50 years back, there were less things to go around, so it made sense that you were annoyed if someone was inefficient in using something. And another quite rational thing is that back in the day, 40, 50 years ago, the light bulbs weren't LED light bulbs. They were made from tungsten. So, a short physics lesson. A tungsten is a rather dense metal that is inefficient at electricity transfer, and when something is inefficient at electricity transfer, it has a tendency to heat up. The way the old light bulbs used to work is they would heat up a tungsten coil to 2,500–3,000 degrees Celsius, and at that point it would glow red hot, and that's what would create the light. Now, that process is many times less efficient than the LED light bulbs we have today. Plus, when a tungsten wire gets to 3,000 degrees Celsius, it has a tendency to not last for very long. So you have the added power consumption, and you have the many times less life of the light bulb. It made sense for you to ration them. But the lesson within a lesson here is that you can't let old habits, which you have no idea why you still have, dominate your life. You should question everything you do, and you should reassess, and when you find a logical reason why you do X, Y, and Z, then you can say, sure, I can keep doing this. But otherwise, you're just wasting time, resources, and probably annoying people you spend time around. Now, this threshold should scale with your income. If you are earning breads and crumbs, you should still have it and set maybe at like $1 or $2, so you don't get micro annoyed about everything that's happening around you. But once you get past certain incomes, say $50,000 a year, you can maybe stop worrying about a car tire or about other bigger things. So for example, for some normal person, getting their tire popped accidentally would probably ruin their day, you know? But if you implement such tactics, it probably shouldn't annoy you because it's a thing that's statistically likely to happen, and you just take care of it and move on. Why does this all matter? Because constantly micro-reacting to stuff nukes your focus. Imagine if every bit of everything that happens in this world took a second of your time. You would have no time to do stuff you actually want to do or that you have to do. Now, there's another side to all of this, because when you are constantly stressed, your cortisol, which is your stress hormone, is through the roof, and that, generally speaking, is a rather poor longevity marker. And generally speaking, less stressed people have a tendency to live longer. Have you ever seen a granddad from Italy sipping on his third espresso of the day, not giving a damn about anything that's happening in the world? Those kind of people have a tendency to live to about 120 without any of the other stuff we can do to extend people's lives. So here's what you can do practically. Before doing something, ask, is this worth my emotional energy? If the answer is no, handle it quietly and just move on to the next thing. You instantly look calmer, stronger, more level-headed. People like you more. If this hits you, that means you're probably still reacting to life on old behaviors you have no idea why you still hold. By fixing this threshold, you will live a longer, richer, calmer life. If you want more mindset resets like this, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.